Robert, thank you for joining me today. How are you?
Absolutely fantastic. Totally blessed to be here. Thanks for having me. It's really an honor. It's a nice honor. We've been chatting back and forth for what, 6, 7, 8 months now on our program. So it's great to be here, and I like what you're doing. I think what you're doing is making a big difference. So
Well, thank you. And I'm excited to talk to you. Yeah, we've been talking just kind of here and there for a while, and I love what you're doing. I love your message, and I think you can bring a lot of value to the audience. But before we dive into that, the first and most important question: who are you?
I am Robert Floyd, MD. I'm a double board certified doc. I had a very long, circuitous route to get to where I'm at right now. I went back to med school at a very, very late age. I was an athlete all my life. I grew up as a child playing, stick and ball sports, mostly baseball, and then did a little wrestling. But then I got into rock climbing when I moved out to Colorado. And then I was a climbing guide and a ski patroller and a skier and a mountain biker and a mountain bike racer. And so sports has always been a big part of my life. And, because of that, living in Boulder, Colorado, I kind of learned a little bit about like alternative medicine, acupuncture, shiatsu, herbal medicine and things like that. And it kind of opened my eyes up to something new. And so, I've always kind of been an outside the box thinker. And, like I had a podcast yesterday and interviewing, I told him I was always one of those little kids when mom and dad would tell me to do something, I'd say, why? So I always kind of like am questioning, the pragmatic, dogmatic approach and thinking there's always something better to do. So I ended up going to medical school much, much later in life. I went back at like 32, I think. Which is kind of unheard of. I went to med school in the Caribbean, which was fun, but it was still med school. I ended up studying about 80 hours a week, and I did that for about 10 years because that's just what it takes, right? And it's not easy. And my health took a nosedive during that time. One day, I was maybe 8 months in. And I looked down, I remember vividly, I was sitting in biochemistry. I looked down and I saw a belly. I was like, oh my God, what is this? Because before I left for med school, I was living in, hold on one second. I was living in Jackson Hole. I was, skiing 100 days a year, backcountry skiing. I was dirt biking, mountain biking all the time, building trails, and so on and so forth. So I was ripped. I was skinny. I was fit. I was strong. And then when I went to med school, it all changed. And so, I went to medical school to become an orthopedic surgeon because I like that aspect of medicine. Someone's broke, you fix it. Done. Right. And I always used to laugh and joke about, family medicine. Oh, what a waste of time that is. And then I ended up in family medicine. I did 2 years of trauma surgery down in Las Vegas as a resident there. And then didn't match into another program. So I ended up luckily, and, really luckily, I ended up at UNR Family Medicine program, which is awesome. It's an amazing program. Props out to UNR Family Medicine. Anybody thinking about a family medicine residency, definitely put that on your radar. It's a great program. And so then I started working at the end of that residency as an ER physician in rural ERs, because you can moonlight towards the end of your residency. And it's extra money, good extra experience. And I was really good at it because of my trauma surgery background, right? I could do all the stuff I needed to do in the ER with all the gory stuff and save lives, more so than just your typical internal medicine or family medicine doctor. I had all this extra training. And so I worked as a hospitalist here in Reno for 15, 16 months, and also as an ER doc in rural Nevada. And then I quit the hospital job and I went straight ER for 6 years, 7 years almost. I was the medical director of an ER out there. And then I got tired of doing that lifestyle, being away from my wife all the time, being away from home, multiple days in a row for the shift work. And so I came back. And somehow, luckily, I came across functional medicine, and it fit me perfectly because I'm always, again, why? And that's what functional medicine is all about. It's about root cause of, hey, you're sick. Okay, why? Well, Western medicine today is like diagnose and treat, diagnose and treat, diagnose and treat. And just a little side note, most medical schools these days are funded by big pharma. So it fits perfectly with them, diagnose and treat. Treat with what? Pills, right? And I'm like, this is bull crap. So, you know, it doesn't resonate with me. Resonate. Yes.
That's right.
Correct word. Yeah. Something like that. Anyway, so it just doesn't mesh with me, right? And so, functional medicine is root cause medicine. It's like, okay, you have high blood pressure. Well, let's figure out why you have high blood pressure. Western medicine is if you have high blood pressure, I say, here, take these pills. You no longer have high blood pressure. That's a lie. You still have high blood pressure. We're just putting a Band-Aid on it so it lowers it down. The dysfunction, the metabolic dysfunction going on inside you is still going on inside you, but we're masking your high blood pressure. And so again, like I said, I'm double board certified in family medicine and functional medicine through the Institute for Functional Medicine, which I think it's an amazing group of doctors, and it really opened my eyes to a whole new realm. And so because of this, is here I am today. I'm sitting in this chair talking to you.
Very cool. And then I always love getting people on who learned the traditional way and maybe did the traditional way for a period of time, because like it's one thing to just be in the functional medicine world and not do anything else, but having that transition from one to the other, I think is really eye-opening for people, because like you understand that other side of things, but you found like there's a better way to do things. So super excited about that with you. So let's go here. Like you and I you do a lot with nutrition, gut health, all of that. So let's dive into that a little bit, like on a just kind of entry basic level. Why is gut health and the things we put into our body, the things we eat and drink, so important to the way our body functions?
Well, it's been said that Hippocrates said all disease begins in the gut. I'm not sure if he actually said that. There's a lot of doubt about if he actually said that. But think about eating is something we do 3 times a day, every single day of our life. At least, unless of course you are fasting, which is I highly recommend. And so, our gut is it's brilliant. I'll start off with, I think the human body is absolutely genius, right? It's spectacular. It's designed with a whole bunch of redundant systems to optimize our health and keep us at a homeostasis, meaning at a good, even level. And, if you screw that up, once or twice, your body can overcome that. But if you screw it up 3 times a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year for 40 years, your body could just ends up saying, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. I've had it. I can't deal with this anymore. And so, that's why I think gut health is so important. I mean, it makes sense. If you even just think about what I just said, it makes sense. Like what you eat matters, right? And, functional medicine is, one of their mantras is food first, right? Instead of medication, or, even supplements can be considered food. Supplements are considered medical food in many aspects. And I liked what you said about how like you like to talk to people about they've been trained in a tradition, but then they go outside and then come back in and do a full circle, come back in and help in a different way. And it sounds like that's what you're doing with your program as well. Would I be correct?
Yes, that'd be accurate. Definitely.
Awesome. And so it's funny because I do functional medicine and / integrative medicine. And, a lot of the Western docs are like, oh yeah, that's a bunch of woo-woo crap, but it's really not. And in fact, they call it alternative medicine. Well, to be quite honest with you, plant-based medicine and food-based medicine has been around since before we were cave people. Okay. And what is going on today is alternative medicine. pharmaceutical companies have only been around for less than 100 years, right? So, alternative medicine, which is basically pharmaceutical medicine, is alternative medicine, and it's terrible. And so like I learned, like, by going through it and seeing it, and that there's a better way. And it just learning, I'm not any super much more in tune to my body than anyone else. I just kind of pay attention, and I'm able to pay attention. But I noticed that when I eat like crap, I feel like crap. I mean, right? I mean, I would hope that everybody could say the same, right? But I don't think they do.
Mm-hmm.
So the gut health again is so important, because I'm circuitous. I'm back to the gut. Is that it acts as a border, right? And it lets the good in, the nutrients that you need, and it keeps the bad out. And then it helps detox by pooping the bad stuff out again, right? So, gut health is vitally important, because it has to do with, all of the systems in your body. I mean, obviously we eat. Why do we eat? So that we can provide nutrients to our body. Our body then has to assimilate those nutrients and make good, healthy proteins, good different chemical neurotransmitters. It has to make fatty acids, and so on and so forth. And so it's kind of like a factory, right? You got to think of your body as a factory, right? So let's say you're building, widget A, and it takes all these parts, and it's a top-notch widget. Well, all of a sudden the supplier is sending you lower quality supplies. That widget quality is going to go down because you're using lower quality supplies. And that's kind of exactly where we are today with our standard American diet. Our food supply is absolute garbage. And, I use this term, and I don't use it jokingly, it's poison.
Mm-hmm.
So, it's when you are trying to be healthy and trying to exercise. Oh man, my wife left a gate open. I think our chickens are going to get out.
Close it.
I don't know where she is. She might be out riding a horse, but anyway, so that's why I think the gut health is so important. I mean, it's involved in everything we do.
Mm-hmm.
So it's involved in nutrient intake and detoxification, exfiltration or whatever, and filtration. So
Yeah. And, when you mentioned, a lot of the foods we eat are poison. Yeah, it's really interesting, because I've worked with a number of people in the past, and obviously I work with people who have been injured or are injured and dealing with stuff. And it's like, they just can't quite break past that injury cycle, even though they're doing all the right things from a rehab aspect. And so I start looking at what they're eating, and yeah, it's a lot of processed foods. It's a lot of the standard American diet stuff. And we eliminate that stuff, and like within a week, that pain goes away. And it's just so fascinating that how quickly getting those processed foods, chemicals, all the stuff out of your system just makes you feel so much better.
Absolutely, 100%. Okay, cool. She's going out to close the gate. Yeah, actually, like we were just talking about right before we went recording, I went to Florida, and, my wife and I ate dessert. We ate key lime pie. That's what you eat in Florida, right? Had dessert a couple nights in a row, and probably had a little bit too much, wheat products. And I came back, I felt like garbage for a week afterwards. My joints hurt, my bones hurt. My exercise tolerance was decreased, and it was terrible, and so, food does matter. What you put in your face matters. And unfortunately, our society we as American humans are being driven to the slaughterhouse of chronic disease and early death by big food, big pharma, the health insurance industry, and even the healthcare industry. None of them care about you. They don't care about me. They don't care about your children. They don't care about your family. All they care about is profits. And it's really, really sad. But luckily there's kind of an awakening going on right now, where people are really saying like, hey, I've had enough of this. Why am I sick? Why is everybody in my family sick? hey, what's up with this organic stuff? Or, hey, what is with this, with this like gluten stuff? What's up with this wheat stuff? And why are people doing this? And it's, I think with technology and, things like what you have, your podcast, it's all about disseminating information. And, I mean, I overindulge on podcasts, actually. I love them. I learn so much from podcasts that, I mean, just the rate of information that I'm getting is amazing. And, a lot of my knowledge has been gleaned from podcasts. People like Joe Rogan, Mark Hyman, Andrew Huberman, Paul Saladino. Those are all people who bring together other smarter people. Like I love Joe Rogan, but when he has comics on, I don't listen to his podcast. When he has really, really smart neuroscientists or social scientists or, Elon Musk or anybody else who's way smarter than me, I'm like, I'm listening to that. So,
Yeah, absolutely.
and I think, so that's what I think what you're doing is awesome, because you're helping people, access more knowledge. And, I mean, it's funny because, we live in the most connected time ever, and the most information ever available to us is available to us, but we're the loneliest, saddest, and the dumbest we've ever been as humans.
Sad but true.
Yes.
Something you said kind of made me rethink something. Like I shouldn't say always, but like a lot of food products, it's like they'll put the gluten-free label on it. And I've always just kind of figured between that and vegan and paleo and keto and all that, like they're just marketing ploys. But the way you worded that, it's like it could be helping people as far as like, oh, like what does this actually mean? And really kind of, rather than just going with the marketing ploy of it, really diving into like why is this important? Or at least for someone who likes to ask the question why, just really starting to look into like, is this good for me? Is it bad for me? Why are people labeling this like this?
Yeah, it's funny. I invested in a cannabis company, and I wanted to actually I wanted to have them, make a strand of weed, and I wanted to call it gluten-free. I thought that would have been funny as hell. But yeah, I think people are, obviously, like you said, it's a ploy, it's a sales gimmick for a lot of crap. And, just because it's gluten-free doesn't mean it's good for you.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, 100% not even close to correct. There's a gluten-free bakery around the corner, and one of my clients in my program, she's a local, and I walked over, I saw her there, and she's buying like loaves of bread and pastries and stuff. I'm like, and I told her, I said, hey, just because it's gluten-free doesn't mean it's good for you. But yeah, you brought up a good point about like you have clients that eat and they're like, they have a flare up again. And you'd asked earlier about like why is gut health so important? And I talked to you earlier about this before, and gut health is important because it gives your cells the information. Like when you eat something, you have to believe that it is information for every single one of the 70 trillion cells you have in your body, right? Every one of your cells is learning from that food that you put in there. It's either being nourished or it's being poisoned, right? It's either nourishing and thriving, or it's being poisoned and like being harmed, or having to work harder to get all the bad stuff out, right? And so, gut health is very, very important. And when you have leaky gut, my whole program, as you know, but for your listeners, it's called the Leaky Gut Solution. And again, because I'm one of those why, I was reading a book about it, and I've kind of like really dove down deep in the rabbit hole of intestinal permeability, leaky gut. And so, and the reason I did my program is because I found in my integrative medicine clinic, I was drawing this picture over and over and over. And you can actually, anybody listening, you can go to Dr. Floyd's Leaky Gut Solution channel on YouTube. And it's actually one of the oldest videos is called Leaky Gut for Dummies, not you, haha. Right. And so, the picture was so profound. I said, I'm going to build an entire program around that. And because what happens, let's say you eat something that harms the brush border inside your intestines, right? Like we talked about, the intestines have to let in the good and keep out the bad, right? So the brush border cells, I'll say it's kind of like this. My palms are the cell, and they have these little finger-like projections that wiggle. And because of the finger-like projections, they have extra surface area to help nutrient absorption, right? Mm-hmm. These cells are held together by proteins called zonulin and occludins, right? So what that does is it keeps these tight, and they're called tight junctions actually, and it keeps them really, really tight so that stuff doesn't go through. Because what happens if they separate, stuff will go through them and get into the bloodstream, which you don't want, right? So what happens is, imagine, like, let's say we'll say gluten, because everybody knows gluten, right? And gluten harms a lot of people. Wheat sensitivity is another part of gluten. It's actually gliadin. But so what happened? Let's just use gluten. I mean, not everybody has celiac disease. Don't get me wrong. Gluten doesn't poison everybody, but that's a whole nother podcast just on that topic. So let's say you eat gluten, and what it does is it wiggles in between these cells. It breaks them apart. So this cell, which was supposed to be attached to its neighbor, now gets harmed, right? And its finger-like projections shrink. The chemical reactions inside the cell are decreased, and the cell is actually malfunctioning or not functioning at all. It's harmed. That cell, remember, is responsible for nutrient absorption in your body, to take the stuff from what you've eaten, chewed up, gone through your stomach and broken down further by acid, and then put into your small intestines. Those cells have to take the nutrients out of that and put it into your bloodstream. So when you have leaky gut, the first step of that is decreased nutrient absorption. Okay, that's the number one thing. And you know what? America is malnourished, 100%. We're overfed and we're malnourished, right? And this goes back to your whole program. Like, if you're malnourished, how are you going to heal, right? How are you going to heal that torn ankle ligament or those broken bones in your foot, right? Or, the torn groin, because, that happens when people run too. So the first step of intestinal permeability, leaky gut, is decreased nutrient absorption. Okay. Then the offending agents, let's call them, poke holes in the intestine, and you get bad actors in the bloodstream, which are not supposed to be there. And so basically, then what happens is you have all this stuff floating around in your blood supply, your circulatory system, that is not supposed to be there. And your immune system goes, holy guacamole, what is all this stuff? It's not good. And so imagine if you get a little sliver right in your thumb, what happens? It gets a little bit swollen. It gets a little red. It gets a little warm. A couple of days later, you can squeeze it and out pops the sliver with some pus, right? That's your immune system attacking the foreign body. So if you have all these foreign invaders in your circulatory system, what's happening? Your immune system is going to go into overdrive, right? Because now it's saying, hey, we have all of this terrible stuff that we don't know what to do with in the circulatory system. It's not supposed to be there. We have to go on high alert. We have to go kick its ass, right? And so it's not just, right in the stomach area. It's fingertip to fingertip and head to toe. It's everywhere in your body, and it's coursing through your body every day, 24 hours a day, 365 days a year for 25, 30, 40 years. So then your immune system goes haywire, and then it creates chronic inflammation. And that's when you get a little redness around the sliver, that's inflammation, right? And so now what we're looking at in America is everybody's malnourished and everybody's inflamed. And that combination right there leads to disastrous results. And again, applying this to your clients, you're not going to be able to heal injuries well. You're actually way more prone.
I was going to say, and you can create injuries by that too. Yeah. Absolutely.
So then, let's go one step further down this path that we're on for leaky gut, and how what happens is, now that your immune system is completely on overdrive and high alert, and it's totally over vigilant by something called molecular mimicry, it's just like it sounds. It's mimicking molecules. Your immune system says, hey, what about those thyroid cells? And what about those pancreas cells? Those look kind of like those bad invaders because your immune system's on super high alert, overactive. So then it goes out and it attacks the thyroid cells or the pancreatic beta cells. And guess what you get then? You get autoimmune thyroiditis and hypothyroid, Hashimoto's, and you get diabetes because you're attacking the cells. And if you look at the incidence of autoimmune disease over the last 40 years, it's absolutely skyrocketed. And, you know, of course, it's going to be multifactorial, but you can probably chalk it up to the one thing that we all have in common, our shitty food supply. And so, you know, like you said, processed food, it's the devil.
Could that attacking of those normal cells of the body thinks are abnormal also contribute to cancer, or are we talking a different process there?
Well, I mean, cancer is a whole different thing, but cancer is a lack of good immune surveillance. We all have cancer in us all the time, right? Shoot. We all have cancer in us all the time. And our immune system is actively attacks the cancer and kills it. When you have a vibrant immune system, when you're nourished properly, when you're not over fatigued and over inflamed. And so if you think about it, if you are on high alert in this inflammatory zone for 15, 20 years, you're gonna wear out your immune system. And it happens. And then cancer like rears its ugly head, you know, and, you know, just like autoimmune disease, cancer has just skyrocketed. Again, it's multifactorial, but the food is one of the issues that we're seeing with cancer. Processed foods, they cause cancer, period. I mean, all the chemicals in our food cause cancer. They don't allow these systems to act properly and you know, ward off the cancer and do what they're supposed to do. So yeah.
I had someone on my podcast a while back. She's like, eat lots of colors, but not the colors that have numbers on them in ingredients list. I was like, yes.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's you know, I have actually one of the modules in my program is Eat the Rainbow. And, you know, I took that right from IFM, Institute for Functional Medicine. Eat the Rainbow, you know, try to eat as many colors as you can every single day, you know, red, green, yellow, purple, white, brown. But unfortunately, the majority of Americans, I think I want to say they only eat on average 12 vegetables. That's it. Like most of their life, right?
Yeah.
And they eat the majority of their food is brown and tan. Oh, and by the way, one of those vegetables, French fries, they're considered a vegetable.
Oh, I did not know.
Yeah. So, you know, I try to eat the rainbow as often as possible, you know, blueberries, raspberries, and organic if possible, obviously, hopefully grown in America if possible. Which is, you know, I mean, we're not supposed to eat raspberries, blueberries, and strawberries all year though. You know, they're seasonal. They're supposed to be seasonal.
Mm-hmm.
You know, but again, eating, you know, a lot of leafy green vegetables, you know, purples, you can get purple cabbage, you can get purple cauliflower, you can get purple broccoli these days. The purple is the colors are the anthocyanins that make the color. Those are polyphenols and that help your body mount an antioxidant response. I mean, this is a whole more scientific here. If you become overloaded with oxidative stress, your cells suffer, your mitochondria suffers, your energy suffers. And so when you eat more colors and more vegetables and more polyphenols and such, anthocyanins, it helps get rid of that overload of oxidative stress and helps you improve the cellular function. So,
Okay.
you know, and another thing I recommend tremendously is fiber. We don't get enough fiber in our diets. The average American eats on average 12 to 13 grams of fiber a day. That's not nearly enough. Women are supposed to have 30 to 35 grams of fiber a day, and men are supposed to have 35 to 40 grams of fiber a day. It's really hard to eat that much fiber, actually. But there's a lot of benefit to fiber. It prevents colon cancer. It helps get rid of, it's a detoxifier. It helps you, it attaches to toxins in your stool before you actually poop it out, and it's poop. It actually helps bind it into the poop and get rid of it. In fact, it lowers cholesterol. It binds to cholesterol and you poop it out. And so, fiber also feeds the microbiome, which again, that's a whole nother, podcast that we could talk about. And there's podcasts out there dedicated just to the microbiome. Most people don't even know what the hell the gut microbiome is. You have 6 kilograms of bugs living in your guts. Okay. Think about that. That's 13, 14 pounds of bugs, bacteria, viruses, and fungi living inside your intestines, but they're there for a reason. And it's called commensal, and it's not symbiotic. I don't help them, they don't help me. No, I feed them, they help me, period. It's commensal. So I'm not benefiting them, they're living through us and helping us. And so you need to feed the gut microbiome to maintain optimal health. And again, you feed it a bunch of different colors, that helps as well. So, and one of the beautiful things about the gut microbiome, I'm sorry, I'm just rambling. You can stop me anytime.
No, it's great information. Continue rambling.
I'm pretty passionate about it, so it's easy to just keep chatting. But the microbiome it produces, when you feed it appropriately, it produces short chain fatty acids, and it helps produce which are essential for our healthy life. And it helps produce, neurotransmitters, dopamine, norepinephrine, serotonin, which help us maintain an optimal homeostasis, right? And so when you don't eat enough of the rainbow and a variety of foods, your microbiome can become imbalanced, and it's called dysbiosis, right? Again, that's a whole different podcast that we could talk about. I'm just kind of giving the 30,000 foot view here. And they've actually done study after study after study that show, you're supposed to have, I think there's 5 different families of bugs, and in those bugs, there's 1,000 different types. And so what they notice is that people who eat a very small variety of food, one type of bug will outgrow the other, and then you become imbalanced. And so that's why you need to eat a lot of fiber. You need to eat a lot of variety of foods to have a giant zoo full of bugs in your guts. And so, there's one that, actually a friend of mine's is having some, situational depression. And so I was looking up, I'm interested in this again. I'm like, why? Maybe this is something here. So I looked up, probiotics for depression, and they're actually making these pills with certain probiotics to help combat depression. It's pretty impressive. Yeah, it's pretty impressive. And another one of these probiotics, or it's not a probiotic, it's actually a bug that lives in you. It's called Akkermansia muciniphila. And they've noticed that people with higher concentrations of that one bug are generally leaner, more athletic, and healthier, and have more energy. People with that decreased amount of that bug are generally heavier, obese, have diabetes, have low energy, and have other medical problems. And so this is going to be, a whole new wave of medicines coming down the road when this happens. In fact, I'll even tell you that they're actually, I know one of my GI doctor friends, he does fecal transplants, right? And so this is weird. I don't know if your clients know this, but you could take a mouse that is, depressed. I don't know how they gauge depression and anxiety in mice, but they do, and feed it, do a fecal transplant with a happy mouse. I don't know how they measure that. And then that anxiety-ridden, depressed mouse will become normal and happy again. And the same thing goes with obesity. Like you can take, and they're scientifically bred mice. They have different things and they knock out their microbiome, blah, blah, blah. But so you could take this mouse with like no microbiome in its gut, take the microbiome and do a fecal transplant of a fat mouse, put it in the skinny mouse, and that mouse will get fat. I mean, it's crazy. It's inspiring that, like, wow, we never knew that our bugs inside our guts played such a big role. So
Yeah, definitely. Going back to the fiber discussion a little bit, you mentioned it's hard to eat enough fiber on a regular basis. Do you recommend supplementation then, or is it just because we just don't eat enough vegetables? Like, how do we get enough fiber for what our bodies actually need?
It's both. You can supplement. I tend to eat a lot of chia seeds. You know, again, if you got 100 doctors in a room and 100 nutritionists in the room, and probably the same thing for you, 100 PTs in the room, you'd have 150 different opinions, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, I just listened to one podcast where like, oh, vegetables are bad. And then I listened to another podcast. Oh, you got to eat more vegetables. You know, I do what works for me and my clients. You know, and I'm not ever going to be convinced that eating blueberries and kale is bad for you. But again, you know, maybe one day I'll change my mind. I'm not married to it. But, you know, in order to get enough fiber, you can supplement. My wife and I eat chia seeds, flax seeds. If you grind up a flax seed, you get more of the omega-3s out of it. But if you don't grind it up, it's a fiber, right?
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so, you know, if you want to get the real good omega benefit out of flax seeds, you have to grind them up, and you have to grind them freshly. You can't grind them, you know, on Monday and eat them all week. You have to grind them as you eat them, because for some reason they either become rancid or they lose their potency. My wife and I also eat this gluten-free bread. I think it's called Argonaut. It has 13 grams of fiber per slice. It's like, holy cow. Yeah, it's good. And it's good bread. Surprisingly, you know, I don't eat a lot of it. My wife eats more than I do, but then, you know, another thing, vegetables. You can Metamucil. I mean, that's a fiber. You can take that in a drink, put it in your smoothie, whatever you're doing. So you try to eat as much as you can. Again, food first as usual, but then if you need a supplement, you need a supplement. I mean, I take handfuls of supplements as before. Now I do. But before I used to think that supplements were a waste of time. But now the more I've learned, I'm like, yeah, I need this, and this to optimize my wellness. Mm-hmm. So I really highly recommend, though, you know, you get fiber and when you, let's go back to fiber. Okay. So you have basically, everybody's heard of probiotics, right? Those are bacteria that you take to help get your probiotics in your gut better. Then you have prebiotics. Prebiotics are the fibers, the insoluble fibers that actually feed the bacteria. And then you have the postbiotics. Postbiotics are the byproducts of the probiotics, like the short chain fatty acids I was talking about, the neurotransmitters that they make. So good prebiotics are something like you can take inulin supplements. You can take, you know, artichoke. You can eat artichokes. You can eat leeks, leeks. I'm drawing a blank. It's right here. Onions, garlic, things like that. And if you just Google prebiotics, you'll have an entire list. And so that helps. Personally, I like sauerkraut. I make my own sauerkraut because it's a prebiotic and a probiotic. So the prebiotic in the cabbage that you're eating, it's the insoluble fiber, but then when it's fermenting, it makes probiotics as well. So it's a double whammy. And it's super easy to make sauerkraut or kimchi. It's ridiculously easy. And so that's how I try to, you know, maintain a good gut health, is by doing that.
Awesome. Question for you. How do you grind flax seeds? I've attempted before and it didn't go well.
Did you use a coffee grinder?
I'm not sure if I tried my coffee grinder.
Yeah, try that.
Coffee grinder will work.
That's the best way to do it.
Okay. Good to know. I will do that. Final question, I think, for today. I know with your clients, you recommended certain supplements. Are there things just like any supplements that you recommend just for general health that we just can't get enough of in our normal daily food intake?
Yeah, K2D3, magnesium and zinc, probably vitamin C. Yeah, those are probably some of the top ones right there. Everybody I see, I measure levels. Everyone's magnesium deficient. Everyone's vitamin K or vitamin D deficient. Everyone's zinc deficient. Even when you eat a good healthy diet, because the food supply is so malnourished itself, the soil is malnourished, and then they add a bunch of fertilizers on it, and what that does is it binds up the minerals and vitamins, so when you eat them you can't assimilate them into you. And so what I definitely recommend K2D3, and you got to take vitamin K2 with the vitamin D so that it activates osteocalcin, I think it's called, and it tells your body to put the calcium in where it should be, which is your bones and your teeth, right?
Okay.
And so, for your clients too, vitamin C is super important for healing, right? If you don't have enough vitamin C, your collagen is going to be decreased. And so, for healing as well, you can take collagen peptides, scoop of collagen powder, that helps too for healing. And then another thing I take for my gut health is glutamine. It's in one of my, I'm watching our little lambs, sheep run around. It's pretty funny. I take a supplement called Repairvite, and it's from Apex Energetics. And it has L-glutamine in it. It's got digestive enzymes in it. It's got aloe vera in it, which is good for the gut. And it's also got deglycerinated. Yes, I said that correctly. It's a deglycerinated licorice, which is really good for gut health, for stomach if you have like GERD, acid reflux. But for your clients as well, glutamine, especially women, when you exercise, you deplete stores of glutamine, which is just an amino acid, right? And so, one of the test questions in the functional medicine test is, it's a 28-year-old female who comes in and she runs, 5 days a week and blah, 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 blah. What supplements should she be getting? And glutamine, because we deplete it when we exercise. And so I use it as a post-workout drink. I get this stuff from a place called Rhino Power. He's an ex-motocross racer who totally went head over heels into nutrition. And I like it. It's really good for me. But I also use the Repairvite GT for the glutamine supplementation. And, one of the things I would tell you in my program, you got to remove the offending agents. Like I talked about, the offending agents that go in and cause the harm of the leaky gut. And then you got to replace them with healthy agents. And then that allows your body to repair. It's the same thing with your clients, right? You got to offend what's doing the harm, right? You got a torn ankle, you tore it when you're running and stepped on a rock wrong or whatever. You got to stop running for a little bit. You got to let it heal. And then you got to let it repair. And you got to do everything optimally, nutrition wise to repair. Again, vitamin C, vitamin D, zinc, all that stuff helps support the immune system. The immune system helps support repair, because repair is done by an inflammatory process, which is part of the immune system, right? So, again, our body is a wonderful system of systems. And so we need to optimize as much as we can. So I know that's a long rounded answer, but
it's a good answer though. Good answer. Well, Robert, you shared a lot of really good information today. If anyone wants more information on what you do, where can they find you?
I'm right here.
Accurate.
No matter where you go, that's where you are, right? Like I said, I'll send you a link of all my links. But Dr. Floyd's Leaky Gut Solution on YouTube. I have a website, drfloyd.org. And that's drfloyd.org. Then I have, you can watch a webinar if you feel like you have resistant weight loss and need to fix the gut, or if you're on, chronic medications and you have chronic disease that you want to fix and get rid of. That's one of my, fortes. I get people healthy by healing your gut. And it's the webinar is trimdownpowerup.com/register or leakygut-solution.com/register. And you can see me on Facebook at Trim Down Power Up, or Dr. Floyd, Dr. Robert Floyd, MD. So I'm trying to, kind of get all my stuff together in like one or two places, and I'm actually going to hire a virtual assistant to kind of like streamline all
that.
Yeah.
Well, in the meantime, we'll get all that in the show notes for sure.
Yeah, I'll send you a text with all that stuff. So
perfect. Well, Robert, thank you so much for your time today. This was really informative for a lot of people, I think.
Awesome. Well, yeah, tyou for having me. It's an honor to be on your show. I really appreciate it. And, I know I spewed out just a ton of stuff. If you have questions, you can go through drfloyd.org, or, you can reach out to me. So I'd love to help. And, I know what you're doing, Bree, is awesome. You're really helping people, because like all these fake phone calls that we've practiced, these sales calls, and, I really mean it. Like, and I kind of joke around. Yeah, I'm kind of depressed because I can't run. I get it. I know it is people's antidepressant. And so, make sure, and what you're doing is getting people active again. And, that's another thing I would highly recommend to everybody: exercise. So, and avoid processed food.
Yes, those two things.
Yes.